Hello and welcome back to the Xamarin Forms tutorial where we work on a time tracker app. I'm Patrick and this is the Let's Create series. So we also need to test, so I'm going to press stop. We also need to test kind of saving. So in our base repository we have the save method, we're not using it. We also have a delete method, we're not using it. So we need to do both. So let's open base repository and let's just go to save first. So instead of throwing, we're not going to do that. But what we are going to do is change the return type from bool to string. And here's why. So when we save a new item, we want to get its ID back because the app is unaware of the ID since Firestore is the one that creates it. So let's change these. So we'll go into the iRepository declaration. So I scrolled up, right click iRepository, go to declaration. And instead of save returning bool, we want it to return a string. So let's make that change, press save. And then I'm going to go back into the base repository. We have an error as we expect, and that error is saying you're not implementing the string version. So let's change bool to string. So now this error won't go away, but this one does. And so now we can make that task completion source as we normally do. So we'll say var tcs equals new task completion source. And this needs to be kind of the same return type. So this will just be string. And then, drop a couple lines and return tcs.task, which gives the shared project something to await. Okay, so that looks good. Now we need to do the actual save. So in between these two lines, I think we need to convert this to a dictionary for iOS. We're gonna see what happens, but I'm pretty sure it needs a dictionary. But we can make that conversion in our extensions. But for now, let's go ahead and call Firebase Cloud Firestore Firestore shared instance. So Firebase Cloud Firestore shared instance dot. And now we do want to save this in the same collections. So get collection, and this will be document path again. But then we want to set document. So I don't add document. Yep, there it is. And so we'll look at this signature, and it does take a dictionary of NSString for key and NSObject for object. So we need a conversion. The first one is we need to kind of pass in the object we're saving. So let's change this. So instead of save by itself, we'll do save and then a typed parameter of t. And then this will be t item. My apologies. So this does have the same item type. So we don't need to worry about a new typed parameter. So let's just get rid of that altogether. Let's go back to that iRepository and let's change save. We need to change it to take in the item. So t item. And while we're here, we might as well do the same thing for delete because we also need to kind of do delete item. So let's do t item here as well. So now we've changed save and delete to take in a t item. So we'll go back to the base repository and we're going to change delete while we're here to take in t item. Okay, so with that done, we'll head back down to save. And so now add document. Add document wants a dictionary. We don't want to keep parsing all these dictionaries all the time. We want another convert method. But this time we're converting back. I wonder what the best way to do that is. So I guess it could be an NS dictionary. No, it should be an extension on the item itself. So we know all of these items are going to be of identifiable. So what we'll do is go to extensions. So we have iOS extensions. Let's right click, add class. And this will be identifiable extensions. So that's a mouthful, but identifiable extensions. But either way, this class needs to be static. This class does not need a constructor. And we need it to return, so public static, it needs to return an NS dictionary. Whoops, did not mean to run. I meant to do a quick fix. And this needs an NS string as the key and an NS object as the value type. And so then in here we can say this. We need to give it a method name. So we'll just, we can just call it convert again. So this will take in this identifiable. And then we need to use a quick fix to import the using, and we'll just call this item. So then we need to return that NS dictionary, before we even really do anything. So we'll just say var, we can call it dict again, equals new NS dictionary. And of course, same types as we need. And then we're going to return that dictionary. So this doesn't actually do the conversion, but it allows our app to continue to run. So I'm going to head back over to our base repository, and we're going to see if this will allow us to actually use that extension. I'm pretty sure it does. So if we say item.convert, it does. But now we need a way for Firebase to let us know what happens with this document. So what you end up doing is adding these snapshot listeners, right? So, or completion listeners. So add, let's see. We don't really want to, no, we don't want a snapshot listener. Snapshot listeners notify us when certain document properties change. So let me just do a real quick search here, and let me see what the best way to do it is. 3 overloads. I wonder if this lets us add it. Let's see. Oh, it sure does. Look at that. Add document completion handler. Perfect. Let's see what other ones it gives us. So I'm going to go up. So the first one is, a C# dictionary of object. I like that. That's better than converting. The next one is an NS dictionary. And then that C# dictionary object, and then the add document completion handler. So that is the one we're definitely going to use, I think. It's just easier. We don't have to make that extension method now. I like that. And then, of course, the next one, the fourth option is that NS dictionary with the document completion handler. So that's great. We are going to convert just the POCO, the plain old C# object, over to a regular C# dictionary. That's excellent. That's what we're going to do. Say new, and then it takes in something, error, and then we'll just kind of do like a lambda on it. It's got no return type, so that makes it easy. And now we can do the same thing. We can check to see, hey, is error null? If not, then let's grab some properties. And now we're in here, so we can check for error. So if error does not equal null, then something went wrong. We'll use that same comment, something went wrong. We'll try to set the result to the default. So tcs.trySetResult, and that will be default. And then we'll return. Otherwise, we're here. I guess we do just return true, right? I wanted to get the ID, but I don't want to make another query. So for now, let's change this back. It's not going to return string. It's going to return bool. So let's change this back. We'll go to iRepository and we'll change that back. And now we need to change the TCS here to bool. And so default is false. And so if we got here, we'll just say tcs.trySetResult, and that'll be true. So we'll head back to the time clock page, model. And now instead of items equals this.getAll, we're going to say result equals save. And now we need to save a new work item or a new test data item, right? So let's go ahead and do new test data. We'll drop down so we can set some properties. Then we want to kind of check the result, really. All right, so some properties. We don't need ID, but we kind of want everything else. So we'll say age is 30. Amount is, I don't know, it needs to be a decimal. Well, actually a double, right? In C# a decimal is another thing. Flag, let's say false because we've only been using true. And then name we'll say is some name, getting creative. And then someday equals date time dot from, we'll just say now. We'll just say datetime dot now. I'm going to open this test data model just so I can, see these properties again. And so we need a string, an int, a double, a boolean. We're already going to take care of string, and we need this date time. And I think that was kind of the issue, either the int, double, or date time. But we can just stick with the NS dictionary. So what we need to do in here is, so we need to convert this item to a dictionary so that we can go through each value and get its type. So let's do that. So we'll say var JSON string, just like last time, equals newtonsoft.json convert, and then we'll serialize this object, and then we'll deserialize it into just the C# dictionary. So we'll say this is the property dictionary is fine, and so var property dict equals newtonsoft again .json. We'll use JSON convert, but then we'll deserialize this time. And this will be deserialize object with a typed parameter, and that typed parameter is going to be a dictionary of type object. Well, it can be string object. And then this will take in the JSON string. So we have our property dictionary. So what we should do now is go through each key in the dictionary. So we can say for each var, and we can call it k or key, in property dict dot keys. And so for each key, we're going to grab the ns string key. So this will be var ns key, is the variable name we can use. And we'll say var ns key equals new ns string. And then in here we'll just use key, because that's getting parsed to a string anyway from JSON convert. So that'll give us our ns key. And then we want to get our ns object, ns val, so that'll be the variable name we'll use. So ns object, ns val, and for now that could equal null. So then we want to go through and make sure that we can map each of these object types. So let's say var value, and this var value will equal our property dict, so our property dictionary, and that'll be just, we're going to retrieve the value for the key, so just the regular key, not the ns key. And so now we have our value. And so now we can do a couple if statements. So we can say if value is, and if it's a regular string, we can just say str. So if it is just a regular string, then of course this is the easiest. And what we could do is say ns val equals new ns string str. So that'll map our ns value from a C# string. So that's perfect. So the next one we want, so we can just check, so else if, and then we can check for a double value. So we can say if value is a double, and then we can just say, dbl val or something, doesn't matter. So if it does parse to a double, then we'll say ns val equals, and we'll say new ns number. And ns number can take in all sorts of types, and so we'll just give it double val, and so that'll infer that it's a double. So that's good. Else if, so we also need boolean, so we can say if value is bool val is fine. Then we can say ns val equals new ns number again, and then this will take in our bool val. So the integer is kind of an issue because it's not actually an object. So what we need to do is see if we can parse this value as an int 32. So we'll say else if, and then we'll say int 32 dot parse. Well, we'll say try parse. And so if we can parse this value, and we'll just say out int and int val is fine. We need value to be a string. So we'll say value dot toString. So if this parses, then we can safely say ns val equals new ns number to make it an ns object, and that'll be of int val. So that handles string, double, bool, int, and now we need that date time. So this is another tricky one, and so this one's not going to be kind of a one-liner. This one's going to take some braces. So we can say else if value is date time, and then we can just call this dt val or something. So if it's a date time, we need to use an ns date formatter to turn this date time string into an ns date. So that probably sounds terrible, but it's not that hard, and so here's what we'll do. So we'll first create our date formatter. So we can say var formatter equals new ns date formatter. We can set the format, so formatter.date format, and then this just takes in a string, so we can just do something like, a 4-digit year, a 2-digit month, a 2-digit day. We'll use capital H's for the hours, And then we don't need colons or anything, but we can use them. It doesn't matter. So 2-digit capital H, our 2 capital H's for the 24-hour format for hour. Then we'll do 2-minute and 2-second. So now from here we can get the date string. So we can say var dt string or dt str equals, and we can just use the C# method for this, toString, and we can provide that same kind of format. So instead of duplicating it, let's just give it its own variable. So we'll say var date format equals, and we will, got an extra set of quotes, but basically we're going to just make this its own variable so that if we change it once, it changes in both places. And then we'll replace this string for a date format. And then we'll do the same here, so because we can reuse it basically. So date format. So what we did was, instead of typing in this year, month, day, twice, so if we needed to change this or wanted to change this, we'd have to change it twice. Instead of that, we'll set it to its variable and just use the variable. So this will give us a DT string. And so from the DT string, now we can parse our date. So we can say nsval equals formatter.parse. And so what this will do is take in a string for a date, and it will return an NS date, and that's what we want. So we'll say formatter.parse, and we can do our DT string, which is our string version of our date, and then that'll return it into the nsval. So that handles all data types that we need right now. And so what we should do, since we have a bunch of if and else ifs, but no just catch-all else, we should make sure nsval is not null. So under that, we'll say if nsval does not equal null, then we can add it to the dictionary. One thing we'll notice though is we can't actually add anything to the dictionary. The reason for that is this dictionary is not mutable. It is an immutable dictionary. So let's scroll up to our declaration for dict, and let's say it equals new NS mutable dictionary. So that's mutable. So this allows us to add things to it and remove things to it. So now that we have a mutable dictionary, we can say if nsval does not equal null, we can say dict.add. Now we have this method, and now it wants a key and a value. So we have our ns key and we have our ns value because it's not null. Now we get an error with returning a mutable dictionary because it's not the same type, and that's fine. So what we can do, the ns dictionary has an awesome method. So we can say return ns dictionary, and let's still do ns string, ns object, but now we can say from objects and keys, and this is perfect. So from objects and keys needs 2 arrays. It needs an array of objects and an array of keys. And so we can do that just by saying dict.values, right? Because that returns an array of objects. And we can say dict.keys, because that returns an array of objects, and that's perfect. But the one thing we don't want to do is send the ID as a document property, because that's going, this ID should be null anyway. So let's remove that. So the very first thing we'll do is check to see if key is equal to ID. So before anything, at the top of that for each, we'll say if key.equals, and this is ID. So if it does, let's just continue. Let's not add it at all. Let's just go to the next property. So that's what that does. So that'll stop ID from being mapped. It'll map everything else, and now we can test it. So doing this, we shouldn't have to change anything in BaseRepository, because BaseRepository is already using the item.convert method. Just returning NS dictionary should change which method we're using because it's overridden or overloaded. So I'm going to press run and let's see if it works. So basically what we're going to do, so in our time clock page model, we do have this save, and it's not providing an ID, which we're going to address next, by the way. But anyway, so we're going to try to save this to Cloud Firestore, which I have open, so we can see if it works. But let's log in with our test user. Okay, and so we come to this, it's finally making it into this method to see if error is null, and it is, which means it was successful. And so then we'll get to the next breakpoint and we'll see that result is true. And so that's good. And we can continue through that. And now we want to open our Firestore. So I have that here, and it did create a new document. So the first document I had in here is still there, and the next document is a new document, and it's here as well. So this is good. This means our save method is working. I think that's a good stopping point for today's video. If you like the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments section. Thank you for watching the Xamarin Forms tutorial. I'm Patrick, and this is the Let's Create series.